Is it just us, or is Maria Bello aging quite gracefully?
Everyone knows awkward Eric Foreman, but can Topher Grace pull off the sadistic, drug-running villain?
Which team are you guys on? Team Jenna or Team Peyton?
Gaining family acceptance or overcoming addiction? The trials and tribulations of one Bree Buckley.
Red and Red Real Reviews delves into whether The Waterfront on Netflix is worth all the hype.
Ahoy, ladies! Didn't see you there. Would you guys like to set sail on this ocean of flavor?
Randall, look at eye contact. You're gonna be cool, right?
Oh, baby, I'm as cool as the other side of the pillow. Been staring at this board for days.
When you play the Game of Thrones, you win, you die.
Act. Bears eat beets.
My brain is on fire. I'm dying.
I am the one who knocks.
Bears beets. Battlestar Galactica.
When they say 2% milk, I don't know what the other 98% is.
It's hard to believe we're even the same species.
You know nothing, Jon Snow.
Oh my god. The microchip has been compromised.
Dracarys.
Welcome back to another episode of Red and Red Real Reviews. This one is called The Waterfront on Netflix. And going into this one, I really didn't know a lot. I had seen it in the top 10 on Netflix for the past week or two. I actually was talking about shows with my chiropractor, and his assistant said, "Oh, what was that show that you were watching?" And my chiropractor said, "Oh yeah, what's that show with Jason Bateman about the drugs?" And I said, "Ozark." And he said, "Yeah, it's kind of like a less good version of that." So that was my first impression of someone who had watched this show. So that's what I knew going into it. So I didn't have it built up in my head that it was going to be excellent or, a Golden Globes contender or anything like that. So my expectations were not high. Sometimes that ends up where things are much better and you enjoy something much more when you don't have high expectations. So that being said, we have to let everyone know, should they watch The Waterfront?
I I will say I can't say don't watch it because I thought it was a decent show. It was enjoyable. The acting was a little passe at times, but I thought the writing, even in spite of that, I thought the writing was very well done. So I would still say watch it. I would still recommend someone watch it, but I don't understand the hype train behind it. Like, it's a good show and I hope it continues, but I don't necessarily get why everyone's clamoring all about it like it's the next hottest thing.
I agree with you there. I do think when something is consistently in the top 10 of Netflix, just because something is popular doesn't mean it has the most integrity, doesn't mean it has the best acting, or doesn't mean it's fantastic television. So that's kind of what I looked at this as. Entertaining, meh, acting, but it's doable. It's entertaining. That's what you're watching it for. It's a drama for sure. It's a little bit nighttime soapy, but we'll talk about that in a minute. That's because of the Kevin Williamson effect, I think. But yeah, I mean, to your point, the writing, I think, in spite of the acting being a little iffy at times, it wasn't the worst acting I've ever seen. And the writing, I thought, made sense for the subjects that they were talking about.
Yeah.
So I wasn't absolutely hooked on it. I didn't love the characters. I wasn't, waiting on every scene and waiting on every plot line, but I didn't hate it. It kept me pretty entertained. And there was actually a couple times where I had to find out how it continued. So I would watch like the first 2 minutes of the next episode to be like, oh, is that person alive or dead? Like, I need to find out. Like, I'm pretty sure I know the answer, but let me just find out before I go to bed. Okay.
Yeah, and I mean, I didn't really get the soap opera vibe. I mean, there are definitely a couple moments where I was like, I could see why somebody would think that about this particular scene, but from a macro level, I didn't really get that. It kind of just felt like it kind of just felt like I don't want to say who done it or something like that, but some kind of mystery thriller kind of deal, and kind of like part mystery, part Breaking Bad, or like because obviously had the drug element, that sort of thing.
And it had that whole. I know Kevin Williamson. He's the writer and creator of Dawson's Creek, which I think is supposed to take place in like New England, but it was shot in, I think, Wilmington. Is that North Carolina?
Yeah,
Dawson's
Wilmington
Creek.
is in North Carolina. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think Kevin Williamson kind of focuses in on that coastal,
Yeah.
nautical vibes with his creations and shows. I mean, he does a lot of horror movies too, so that's not everything, but yeah, it did kind of make sense that it had a little bit of that southern flavor in it because this what's the name of the town?
Havenport.
Havenport. Yeah, so
Yeah.
I think it's doesn't it take place in I think it's North Carolina.
It's in North Carolina. Yeah, it's North Carolina.
Yeah, so it had a little bit of southern vibes. You have this established family, the Buckleys, who are kind of local organized crime gang.
Yeah. And I mean, anything like nautical or aquatic, I'm always for that because I do real that is something that's appealing to me and throughout my whole life. So I mean, I'm okay with that too. I will say though, we're like dumping on the acting a little bit, but I gotta give a little bit of a hat tip to Topher Grace because here's a guy he's usually an also ran in a lot of bigger name films, and then everyone knows him from that '70s show. And I feel like at best slash at worst, depending on your interpretation, the baddest character he's ever been is like an anti-hero. He's never really been a villain.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that this launches kind of a different arc in his career, that he gets more villain roles, because I thought his acting in this was far and away the best that the show had to offer.
Yeah, it was interesting because I saw an interview with him where he said that role was actually written for him by Kevin Williamson. So that's funny that the role of Grady, he's a sort of an awkward, cringy guy. And
Yeah.
I had to laugh at some of the jokes he cracked, and even the way he would approach people he was just meeting and be like, I'm a hugger. And then Belle was like, I'm not, get away from me.
Yeah.
And he was so funny, that awkward part of him, but then he would turn on a dime and be psychotic. So that was an interesting way of seeing Eric Foreman, who is cringy and awkward, become a psycho.
Yeah,
Quickly.
and on top of that, the scenes like when he just shows up at the fish house randomly and he's like, "Oh, let's talk, let's do business," and Harlan's like, "No, no, no, like we can't do this. We can't mix business and pleasure like this." And he's showing like, "Oh, I want to go to the restaurant. I want to see this. I want like, what do you guys have to offer?" Like, he wants to be like friends. At one point, you kind of get a feeling like he sees Harlan as his father figure he never had, and he just doesn't get that, like, you are growing the drugs for us to push. Like, we cannot have this buddy relationship. Like, we can't cross streams here.
Yeah. So in the realm of talking about the acting, we talked about Topher Grace. Other than that, there are not many what I would call, huge stars in this show. There are what I would like to refer to as medium star power, but definitely some familiar names and faces. Sometimes you don't know the name, but you know the face. So I thought we would start by talking about first, Sheriff Porter, Clyde Porter, was played by an actor named Michael Gaston. And he's been in so many shows. He has, I think, over 120 projects in his filmography. He's been on every show you can think of, bit parts. And then he was in a few episodes of Mayor of Kingstown, which we've seen, The Leftovers, which I've never seen, and another one I've never seen is The Man in the High Castle, which I think was an Amazon show.
Yeah,
but he was in several episodes of that. So definitely had a familiar face. I wouldn't know him by name, but he's been a working actor for a long, long time.
First of all, I can't believe you never saw The Leftovers.
No. Nope.
that Paul Giamatti Oscar movie from a couple of years ago.
Wait, The
Yeah. Oh wait, no,
Leftovers.
I'm sorry. I'm thinking of the Holdovers. That's the Holdovers.
Yeah, that The Leftovers, is that an HBO show? I don't even know.
You might, yeah, actually, I think you might be right there.
I think it's one of those ones like that's pretty critically acclaimed or a fan favorite, and I've just never seen it. It's been on for several
Yeah.
seasons, and I've never seen it.
Yeah, and Kingstown, I didn't recognize him from. I honestly didn't even recognize his face. Like he almost looked like a poor man's John Malkovich. Um, but I mean, his character had like three different names himself. He was Owen, he was Porter, he was Clyde. Like it was kind of like, well, no wonder I don't recognize him. I don't even know who the character is.
Yeah, yeah. And another familiar face, and I couldn't place where I knew him from. Then it sunk into me. So the actor who plays Harlan is his name is Holt McCallany, and we've seen him in The Lincoln Lawyer. He was, I think, Neil Bishop, the guy that was what didn't he end up
He
shooting
shot
himself
on the stand.
on the
Yeah, he shot
stand?
himself on the
Yes.
stand.
So that was pretty memorable. That's where we remember his face from. But also, he was the main guy in Mindhunter. And I know you haven't seen that, but that's one of those shows that people wish would come back. And I heard whispers that they're thinking of doing a movie. But that's like a very, very good show that just kind of went away. And everyone's like, wait, what is happening? Why? He was really, really good in that show. So I hope that comes back. And that's where he's in my brain from.
Yeah, I recognized him as well, and I was watching all the time. I'm like, where do I know this guy? Where is I didn't even put Lincoln Lawyer together. I did not even connect the dots on that one. So, I'm glad I'm glad you noted that down, going into our show because I was like, that's right, that's why I know him.
I like to make the connections between things we've seen so that, and another person that we've seen before that's a repeat actor for us is Dave Annable. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. And
I
he's
always
from
say
Lioness.
Annabelle, but I don't think that's right.
I honestly have no idea. It's one of those simple last names that you look at it and you're just like, I have no idea how to pronounce this, even though it appears simple.
Yeah.
And he plays Neil in Lioness, and I sort of love that character. He was one of the only redeemable characters on that show for me.
Yeah, he is one of our favorite characters. I wouldn't go as far as saying he's the only redeemable character on the show for me, but he is definitely my favorite character on the show.
And let's just say in this show, he's not quite redeemable, but I still love that actor because of what I associate him with. And of course, he's also the quickly dead brother Lee Dutton that we didn't see a lot of from Yellowstone, and we've talked about this before.
Yeah, and honestly, it's nice to see him do things that kind of aren't associated with the Taylor Sheridan brand. I mean, not that there's anything wrong with that, of course, but it's nice. It's nice seeing these actors come out of their kind of, I don't want to say comfort zone, but out of the box that they're characterized in.
Yeah, he plays a little bit of a sleazebag in this, so it's a departure from like Neil, the good husband.
Yeah.
Honorable Lee Dutton, who, R.I.P. But
pour one out for your fallen homie.
So he's a repeat actor, and also we have somebody who's not a repeat actor, but she's been around a long time, probably over 25 years. Maria Bello. The first thing I ever saw her in was Coyote Ugly, and that was the year 2000. So other than that, the first memorable acting role that I think, even though I was in my lower 20s when this movie came out, but The History of Violence that came out in 2005 with Viggo Mortensen, that was a full 20 years ago, but I remember it being sort of an acclaimed acting role for her, that movie. So also she was in Beef, which I don't know if you saw that one on Netflix a few years ago.
Yeah, I watched Beef with Stephen Yeun.
I couldn't remember who she was, but she was in 5 or 6 episodes of Beef.
Yeah, I couldn't remember who she was either. I probably, if I sat there and thought about it, I probably could. Maybe she was one of the ladies that was running the one of those curation exhibits or whatever. I saw her too, and like she's got a very familiar face,
Yeah.
so I always know it's her right away.
Mm.
But the only like project that sticks in my head, she was in this like one of those prototypical of the time, the early 2000s armored car police, still bank robbery, those type of movies. She was in Assault on Precinct 13 with Ethan Hawke.
Oh,
Yeah, she was in
okay.
that.
So that was maybe like 2002 or 2003. I think that was like right when I started working at the video store. So that one I definitely sticks out in my mind.
Yeah, but I will say, and I could be wrong, so correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay. Okay.
But I think she deserves a place in our Aging Gracefully Hall of Fame.
You know what? I think I would agree with you. To be honest, I didn't look up her age, and I didn't look up the actor who plays Harlan's age either. I would think that maybe he's got a few years on her. I think he is maybe older than her, but she's got to be in what, her 50s?
Late 50s. Late 50s.
Okay, I'll have to look that up. But she looks pretty much like how a woman in her 50s should look, I think. And I thought
she could pull off still in her 40s.
Oh, I don't know about that, but she has that mature voice and like mature air about her. But no, I think I would agree. I think she's aging pretty gracefully for her age, whatever that age is, which I didn't verify, but
I think I think if my math is correct, which is never usually something people want to rely on, but I want to say she's 58.
that sounds about right. I would say she's mid to late 50s, if anything, but we'll have to check that. But let's go with two more actors to round it out. So I don't know if you would know her, but Melissa Benoist, she plays Bree. She's mostly known from Glee, something you haven't seen, and Supergirl, which I watched the first season of maybe, and then it kind of fell off.
Oh.
But I did like her in that.
Was she Supergirl?
Yes, she was
Okay,
Supergirl.
that's why I know her face. I never didn't watch the show, but I know her face because I've seen the ads and whatnot.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, she's been out there. And a lot of people say, like, when they have those celebrity doppelgangers and they say that, Zooey Deschanel looks like Katy Perry, another comparison they'll always give is that Melissa Benoist looks like Blake Lively. That's another comparison they always give.
I don't
Which
think
I see
so.
it. I see
No,
it. If
I
you
don't
see them,
think so.
if you see them next to each other, they do look similar. Dare I say, Melissa Benoist is more naturally beautiful because we all know Blake Lively has had a very obvious nose job. She's had work done to her face. So
yeah, she's got a very kind of plasticky look to her.
Yeah, she's not au natural. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
And then I just wanted to make a declaration. And apparently this is something that everyone gets confused. And I did too, because I actually wrote in my notes, oh, there's Anthony Michael Hall. And he, if you'll remember, was the rich character in Reacher of this past season. I forget his name.
Yeah, that's right.
So that's Anthony Michael Hall, right? The actor who plays Emmett is not Anthony Michael Hall. Shocker. They look identical. It's insane. Apparently they're often confused, like for each other, these two actors.
A doppelganger out there. I haven't followed Anthony Michael Hall's career over the years. I know who he is, of course, but like he's not something that's like lived in my, personal cinematic lore. So other than just seeing him side by side and thinking doppelganger, I wouldn't see one here, see one there, and kind of put them together or anything like that.
They if you see these actors side by side, it is scary. And you know how I think I might have said in our Reacher episode, oh yeah, Anthony Michael Hall was also the captain or the chief in Law and Order SVU. No, that was not Anthony Michael Hall either.
Was it this guy?
It was this guy,
Yeah.
and his name is Terry Serpico. So apparently they get confused for each other all the time because they look so much alike. So I dare everyone to look up a picture because it's insane. Like you will be like, these are the same person.
Yeah, these are the same person.
These are the same person. And then last, we had a few actors like Shawn, Jenna, Kane, all these people looked very familiar, but I did not recognize anything in their filmography. And I did happen to see that another show that the actor who plays Kane is in, I think was also in the top 10 on Netflix, or it said you might enjoy. And it looks like he's getting more notice because he's been in the Waterfront, that this older show he did that he was in is getting noticed as well.
I wouldn't be surprised if he is kind of in that trending mode because he has this kind of hybrid, rugged, but also pretty boy appeal to him. So like I could kind of see how casting is probably favoring him right now. And normally when I noticed over the years that when someone becomes a hot name, they're usually doing a lot of work all at one time.
Yeah, and this sort of, I don't remember what the name of the show was, but it looked sort of like I think his hair was longer like in the picture,
Mhm.
and it looked sort of like a Sons of Anarchy type vibe. So I think
Yeah,
it's,
he's almost like a poor man's third Hemsworth brother.
yeah, or is it Charlie Hutton? Is that the name of the guy
Yeah,
from?
from Sons of Anarchy, yeah.
Yeah. So speaking of Kane, this is a good segue because I wanted to talk about favorite characters and who we were rooting for the whole time. So obviously the second I started watching this show and Kane walked into the scene, I was thinking, wow, this guy, he reminds me of like Joshua Jackson, who played Pacey Witter from Dawson's Creek. So that was kind of funny that it was like a casting decision, probably from Kevin Williamson, to cast
Yeah.
somebody that looks like somebody he's cast before. So I don't know. He was part Joshua Jackson. He also had this unique look that I couldn't quite place, but I I generally thought he was pretty ruggedly pretty. I mean, we'll say he's a good looking dude, right? So I kind of started rooting for him, and I do think at the heart of it he's a good character most of the time. Like he only shot the bad guys when he had to. He felt extreme guilt. He would say,
Yeah.
no, I'm not taking part in this. Like, oh, you're going to beat this guy to a pulp. I don't want any part in this. And he does have some questionable judgment because we saw him hook up with Jenna eventually after he did resist her, and she was like, oh, the reason you're not going for it is because you're a good guy. And then I was like, this is not going to last probably. And then he did cave in after and hook up with her. So yeah, I mean, whether he's good or not loyalty wise or adultery wise is questionable, but otherwise he seems like a general good guy. Could have been a star with playing ball, but he decided to stay in his small town and work for his dad. The iconic, the general story.
I can't believe you just made a sports reference, a sport metaphor.
It's every sports movie. He could have been a star and played ball, but he stuck around in his small town and wasted away to nothing. No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, to that point, I have kind of a different take on that. But to that point, like I look at Kane, and I wasn't rooting for him, but I did like his character because
Mm,
he could pull off the kind of operator portrayal, but not like a reacher. He's not a reacher type where that is his identity. He's like a reluctant operator. He's just because he does not have a sense of identity. He thinks he just has to run drugs for daddy because
mm,
he can't do anything else on his own. He can't be independent. So I feel like there's also a little bit of internal failure to his character arc where he
oh yeah.
probably does not see himself as having an identity past the Buckley name.
Oh yeah.
And to the point where it's even referenced a couple times with the other parties, where they like dealing with Kane more because he was a pushover, and Harlan doesn't. And Harlan takes no shit. So, it was also kind of nice to see his character grow to the point where he did take charge more when it came to
Mm.
saving Harlan, Shawn, Bree, towards the end. Um, I I don't know if you want to talk about it now or get into it in a minute, but I do have kind of a hot take on Jenna though, as far as the whole Kane thing is concerned.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
I say because to me, like, I don't really see Jenna as the redeemable character because she's almost back in town as an escape because her life's kind of not gone the way she wanted
Mm,
it to. So, and Kane's the one that's kind of fell back into her because of a distraction or to take his mind off of things. I don't think Jenna's the character that was looking for the distraction. I think Jenna was in a place where she could have been the stronger person in that situation and said, no, 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 this isn't right. Get off my front porch.
I think she intended to be like, get off my front porch, like you don't want to do this, you're going to blow up both of our lives, but she just wasn't strong enough to repel him. I
No,
really
not
think that's what it
remotely.
was. No, and I think it's the history that they had was just so deep that that's why she couldn't be strong enough. But I mean, generally, I liked Jenna. I wasn't like, oh wow, she's a stupid bitch. I can't stand her. Like I generally really liked her, but you know, what's funny is I liked her better in spite of her being the other woman, you know, that Kane
Yeah.
cheated with. But yeah, Peyton I didn't like. And even though Peyton was the one who did not deserve, like, no woman deserves to be cheated on, you know, but I didn't like Peyton. So I didn't quite feel bad for her, as terrible as that sounds. It's just weird how it works, you know, like if you have allegiance to certain characters, like, but and even after Peyton did that super nice thing, like she was going over to Jenna's ready to bitch at her face, like, I told you not to touch my man, girlfriend, like, and she was ready to do that. She was ready to throw down. And then Jenna's like, my dad died, so she couldn't do that. So, I mean, that was quite honorable. The fact that you're the one who's been cheated on and you're
Yeah.
still going to be so nice, get on the phone, call the funeral home and get this all arranged for this girl who only the only parent and person in her life has just passed away. Like, despite all that, you know, you're still going to be so kind to her. Like, that's very honorable. But I don't know, something just, we'll talk about it later. Something just didn't sit right with me about Peyton. And I think that's why I wasn't able to still be like, you know what, she's done these great couple of things. Like, I guess I respect her.
I I liked Peyton more, and it wasn't just because of her kind of being the bigger person at the end to Jenna, but it was also the sense of like she is trying to be like keep her and Kane's family dynamic together in spite of the fact that Kane's kind of off on La La Land and has kind of a weak moral character, has no identity for himself. Like she's still committed to her husband and making that work, and and like trying to get him away from Harlan's practices. So like just the fact that trying to make him out to be a better man, in spite of the fact that she could easily just walk away and not deal with him at all. To me, she kind of had that air of honor throughout, you know, the entirety of the series. You know, whereas Jenna, I liked her more at the beginning because, you know, it's like, okay, maybe they used to date or maybe they fooled
Mm,
around when they were teenagers, whatever the case may be. So they're gonna have that chemistry.
yeah.
And they're still kind of like respecting boundaries, but you know, she proved herself not to be a very strong person because Kane's all lost and broken, and she couldn't push him away. She didn't have the cojones,
Yeah. And
figuratively speaking, of course.
I think for me, like the bit of ickiness I felt towards Peyton was sort of that feeling like, I mean, she does take their daughter and leave, but it sort of had, you know, after that, it's when she came back, it sort of had the feeling of like, okay, well, my husband is part of this locally famous well-to-do family by all appearances, even though, no one knows that they're crazily in debt. But they're the Buckley family. There's this kind of, and like, look at the freaking house that Kane has. You know what I mean? This big, beautiful house. And I kind of saw it as like, okay, well, he's cheated on me, whatever. I still want to be a part of this Buckley family, and I still want to be part of the rich. And like, it kind of gave me that sense of like, which I never respected women who stay with men who cheat, like Hillary Clinton. Why would you stay with him? It's like a marriage of convenience. And I got a little bit of that vibe from Peyton, which kind of gave me the ick.
Well, yeah, but he didn't. I mean, he wasn't necessary. We don't know if he was a cheater before this little fling here.
Yeah, but the fact that he cheated on her once, I mean, isn't that enough to like? I guess when there's kids
After
involved,
the fact,
it's.
I mean, but that's after they built this life together. I mean, we don't know that he cheated before. We don't know that she was staying with him. If now, yeah, I mean, there may be a valid argument if another season comes around and she winds up leaving him or she decides to stay, then maybe valid. But up to that point, we don't know if Kane cheated around. Peyton was just feeling off because of the chemistry dynamics they have.
True, but like, how many times? Like, to me, like, cheating once is enough. I
get that, but we don't know if he did it before that night he was on Jenna's porch. We don't know if that happened.
Yeah, I don't know. At least
that
he fessed up to it.
That could have been the first time, and then the series, the season is over. So we don't know what the resolution is after that.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk a little bit about more in the next topic. So another character that I kind of forgot about that I was rooting for that you noted down was Shawn, which I did like Shawn. I thought he was it was a honorable thing for him. I mean, his mother passed away and he felt comfortable kind of fessing up to Belle once she spotted that he wasn't really a bartender. And I liked that little relationship that he had with Belle, where she's the one who kind of, broke the news to Harlan and broke the news to the kids. And I liked the way that he defended her and kind of became a part of the family, but also had that relationship where he wanted to protect, his like stepmom, I guess you'd call it.
Well, and she also defended him. I mean, at that point, Belle and Harlan kind of knew that they fooled around on each other over the years. So like,
yeah,
maybe it was just kind of like an accepted premise between the two of them. But like, it's not necessarily that Shawn defended Belle, but also Belle defending Shawn. I mean, she could have rejected him right away. This is my husband's bastard son from, many, many moons ago. I mean, she could have rejected him right out the bat. And, Harlan's kind of not opening up to him right away. And Kane and Bree are kind of like, whoa,
yeah,
half brother we never knew we had, get away from me. So like, it's a situation where like, it's almost, I was looking at Belle, like, more onus on her. Like, hey, she's being the bigger person here and stepping up for him when all this guy wants is a sense of family and identity because he never had that. Plus the fact, he made a reference later, like, how'd you know how to fight? Well, grew up gay in Texas, kind of know how to defend yourself or whatever. And make what you will, that stereotype, whatever. But that's, but besides the point. But like Shawn to me was this appealing character because he is between that and continuing throughout the season, he's always facing some type of rejection. Like, so, and he keeps coming back. Like, no, he keeps wanting this. And Kane's even to the point where it's like, dude, what are you doing? This family is a disaster. Do not want to be a part of this. And that doesn't matter. Like, he still keeps pushing towards, like, no, this is what I want. I want to be a part of this.
Yeah, and he keeps going to bat for this family that he doesn't even know very well, but he's like, you know what? Damn it, I'm a part of this family and I'm gonna go down with you guys, and I respect that about him, the way that he really stepped up on the boat at the end and saved everyone. And I mean, that was part of his doing.
Yeah, and like him he's almost like a quiet. Like I feel like if if this can kind of go forward and such, he's kind of like a quieter version of Kane. Like Kane can, if Kane's gonna embrace the operator role, he's kind of like the big burly, beat the pulp out of you. And Shawn's kind of more of a more adept, agile, more of a fluid type of ass kicker. So it's kind of they're kind of like a yin and yang of the same coin.
Yeah. And I really, it was funny when I saw that you noted down Shawn, that, and I was like, oh, I forgot about him. He's just the good guy that you forget about, because
Yeah.
he just operates so above board that you're like, you kind of forget about how nice and good he is.
I think because he's quiet,
Yes,
like
very quiet.
he kind of, I don't want to say he knows his role, but he kind of like stays in his role aside from like, I want to be a part of this, but I'm not gonna like force my way into this. I'm just gonna let it happen organically. So he stays in this adjacent role to the family to prove that he can be trusted, and he can
Right.
support them, and but not overstepping his hand to kind of force that. Like it almost like he's got this, I don't want to say backup plan, but this thought in his head that if he tries to overstep his bounds, they're gonna push him away more, and obviously he doesn't want that. So he's almost kind of like protecting himself by being a little bit more reserved.
Yeah, he doesn't want to intrude, and he doesn't want to go too far where they're like, just kidding, like get away from us. Like you're not
JK.
part of this family. Yeah, so
Yeah.
he tries to support them. You see in the scene where Diller gets shot, he's in the hospital waiting room. He's just kind of sitting there, quiet. And I that might be when he has a conversation with Kane, where Kane's like, dude, why are you still here? What are
Yeah.
you doing here?
Yeah.
But yeah, he's just kind of sitting there like, I'm here to support you guys. I'm not going to say anything. Like, this is all your situation, but I'm just going to quietly sit here and support.
Yeah. And I did have one more. I don't know if you're gonna disagree with me on this one, but like I did feel for Bree, and it wasn't necessarily like the drug and the alcohol abuse, because in spite of that, she is trying to be a better person for her son. I almost feel like her vices were because she was the black sheep of a wealthy family and didn't really fit in. So, we see that in real life, not just in cinema. That type of black sheep can fall into dangerous vices and take them in negative directions. Um, but I don't think, I feel like she was very defensive about her, relapse of sorts, because I don't think she relapsed because she was going back to those addictive habits. I think she was relapsing because she's trying to prove herself to this family. I almost feel like she had to put her in that situation in order to resolve the Marcus Sanchez thing.
It was part of a plan. I think, she had that conversation with Kane prior to that, where he's like, you mess everything up, you're the reason that this whole thing is happening, and you're screwing us over, and you blew up your house with your son in it. And he kind of told her that she was a fuck up, for lack of a better
Yeah.
term. So
Yeah.
I think she kind of hatched this plan for her to make things right, but like at what cost? Because she had to use in order to do the plan, and then she has the guilt that came from it. So I do see what you're saying, and I agree with you in the fact that I was rooting for her, like at the beginning when her son was being kind of a dick to her and like not giving her the time of day, like
Yeah.
understandable, I guess, judging from what happened. But as he started to want to protect her and look after her and wanted to see her do well, I was rooting for that to happen. But I mean, I don't know if we have talked about this before, but in terms of characters in, TV shows and movies that are addicts, whether alcohol or drugs or whatever it is, I have a really hard time, and I think it's because like I have, alcohol abuse in my family. I have a really hard time finding sympathy for addicts because like to me, I don't really understand addiction. It seems like, oh, why can't you just stop drinking? Why can't you just stop taking drugs? Like to me, I see it as very black and white. And I know addiction is not really like that, but I get really, really personally frustrated with addicts in shows and movies. Like I think I've talked before about how The Affair and the character, ironically, her name is Allison. And I could not stand her because of the decisions she makes. And it's just so frustrating. Like, why can't you just be a good person? Why can't you just make good decisions? And so yeah, because of that, like I wouldn't say that Bree was my favorite character, but I do see what you're saying, that you want to root for her to have this relationship for her son. You want to root for her to be just a better person in general, and to be able to see her son and not be punished for it.
Because I think it's a lot of it is because she's got this us like this me against the world thing about her, where like I don't think she's necessarily has that identity personally, but that's the identity that's being built around her by virtue of the writing of the show, and the development of her character is that because we see like you said, Keen's telling her that she's a screw up, and even Diller says that, and her own son says it's like he basically said the same thing that Keen told her. It's like you're always screwing things up. You tried to and Belle is she has that. I mean, maybe there's just some sense of typical mother-daughter tension there, but at the same time, Belle has almost like puts all this constant pressure on Bree and covering up the truth about granddad's murder and that sort of thing, and having to live with that. So it's all like Belle doesn't really allow Bree to like grow and contribute and that sort of thing too. And then Rodney, her ex-husband or baby daddy, whatever their relationship was, like he's always coming at her, and we're taking Diller and we're moving away, and I'm gonna surprise you with this drug test, and that like. So it's always some force always coming at Bree, and it's like at a certain point, it's like give this poor woman a break. She got enough going on as it is. So it's like something's got to get off her back at some point.
Right, and I think that goes to show too that people don't drink, people don't abuse drugs for no reason. There's some pain that they're trying to deal with, right? Yeah. So we kind of find out that even though she was a little girl, Bree has some guilt about not, like, what are you going to do if grown men are beating your grandpa? You're going to go in there and be like, don't do that. Like the fact that she thinks she could have done something is sad because she was a little girl. Like she didn't know any better. And like, even as an adult, like I can't picture trying to intervene if someone is like, even as an adult, if someone is getting beaten, like they're just going to beat me too, like.
It's a feeling of helplessness.
Right. And like, so she's had to deal with that. So it's no wonder she has a past with being an addict. So I do respect the fact that she's really trying. And we do see that over the course of the show, especially in I don't know if it's the second to last or last episode, where she is having dinner on the yacht with Grady. And she says, yeah, get me a drink. And so the guy pours her vodka. She kind of throws it in a plant, or she throws it somewhere because she wants him to think that she is drinking and she's going to be messing all over the place. So she does grab a gun, and she kind of has like a badass moment where it's just like, okay, this woman is like, I'll try anything to make this right. And I'm just going to do the unthinkable. And, it ends up with her almost bleeding to death in this raft, but she's doing all this for her son. The reason that she gave the gun back to them was because they threatened. They said, we're going to kill your son. And so that's all she was thinking of. So yeah, I kind of saw her arc as being like a strong, badass mom, because that's what she is. Like, even though, yes, she had a past as an addict and she's had some moments where her family didn't trust her, That's all she is at the end of the day. She's a mom and she'll do anything for her kid.
Yeah, and it adds to you start to notice this commonality between the Buckleys where they
Mm-hmm.
all have that kind of operator mindset. Harlan jumps into a situation, goes at it. Kane jumps into a
Yeah.
situation, goes at it. Bree jumps into a situation, goes at it. Shawn, even though he's still a Buckley.
Yeah.
He's still an offspring of Harlan. He's got that operator mentality too. So it also starts to build this commonality between Harlan's children, where they all have kind of the same. Uh, I don't want to say fight or flight, but you're presented with a situation like, all right, we got to get through this and solve this problem.
Yeah. I would dub it not so eloquently as like the get her done mentality. Like, let's get in there and let's get it done.
The whole Larry the Cable Guy.
So, speaking of getting things done, so the last episode ends with this guy, Emmett, who basically we find out that he killed Harlan's dad. He was the one to kill Harlan's dad. And then he alludes to the fact that he was a prior business partner. Oh, we're going to be business partners again. And we see him, I think he took part in it, but he also ordered Wes to be beat to a pulp.
Yeah.
And Belle is seeing all of this. And so he says, okay, well, Wes is going to be loyal to you now. And he addresses Wes and says, oh, yeah, this is your new boss. So so basically Emmett, and I get the sense that, like Sheriff Porter, who Belle said that she knew from like high school and growing up in the same town, I get the sense too that Emmett is like one of those people she's known for years, and he's complimenting her. Oh, I always thought you were so pretty and blah, blah, blah. So anyway, he's buttering her up, and he basically says that he's going to buy the land, bail them out of their debt, but only if Belle takes over like this crime family. So I think we see Belle bring it up to Harlan when they're in the hospital to oversee that Bree is okay. And I think she says something like a segue into the conversation, but we don't really see that conversation. So did she pitch to Harlan like, look, I can see you're dealing with a lot. Like, why don't I just take over? Like, we don't know if he agreed to that willingly. We don't really know, but it does seem like at the end, in the very last episode, she's already acting like the boss. So did she clear this by Harlan or did she not? Because we do see she tends to do some things behind his back, like with the land deal. So
Yeah, I don't necessarily think that was cleared at all. I don't even necessarily know so much that she did anything with Emmett. I almost felt like Emmett was just kind of, or Emmett was kind of like doing that to patch things up. That was very, very unclear. I don't know how that situation transpired to get where they where he's beating the crap out of him. Um, I mean, I think that, and I don't even necessarily even know between the Emmett Bell thing as far as taking over Harlan. I didn't necessarily pick up on that either. I do think that would be an attractive storyline to go forward with because we know that Harlan is very, very taken aback by Bell just even having that initial discussion and signing that deal with West in the first place.
right.
So we already know that was a very big pain point. So I feel like there's something to go to go with that, but I don't necessarily know whether and it doesn't necessarily pick up whether there was conversation of any of it actually occurring before we get to that point.
Yeah. We don't know if it's happening above board or if Belle just kind of took it upon herself to be like, okay, I'm taking over the family now to get us out of this debt. And like, yeah. And I can't imagine Harlan would willingly agree to that, but I don't really know. So other than that, like who's going to be the boss of this Buckley family? Where do you think the show goes from here for season 2?
Well, the West thing is interesting because I almost kind of feel like because of who he is as a broker or attorney, whatever he is, he almost kind of feels like he could be a Saul Goodman type of character. To the Buckleys, like Saul was to Walt and Jesse. Um, I think the tension between Emmett and the Buckleys is far from over, especially now that, Grady got his brains blown out.
Right.
Um, so I feel like that could be the next most logical um conflict of parties for the show to tackle. So I don't because I don't think that's gonna be over. I don't think that's something that Harlan's just gonna move past. And Harlan and even Belle to an extent, despite this final scene, um, he does not trust the what Parkers. He does not trust the Parkers. So um I I don't, and we saw how he reacted with Grady. Like we saw that was this constant back and forth tug of war of trust. So I
Mm,
don't see him and the Parkers, especially with knowing what the Parkers did to his father, I
yeah.
don't see that going any smoother than things went between Harlan and Grady.
Right. I think we get a sense that because Grady is dead, obviously, ain't no way he's coming back. That we probably have a new villain in Emmett, and maybe we get more backstory as to Emmett's relationship as a former business partner or the former relationship he had with Harlan's dad. Did something go wrong? Did Harlan's
Mm,
dad do something shady that betrayed Emmett and that's the reason he killed him? We don't know, but we might get more of that, getting to know Emmett, and maybe he's not the bad guy, after all. And or we see him emerge as a partner to Belle, and will he be an honest partner? We don't really know, but yeah, I see that arc for the main driving force, of the second season. I guess as far as the other characters, it seems to me like Bree is going to be on the straight and narrow, right? As long as she doesn't get involved with business dealings again, as long as she kind of stays out of it, hopefully. I see her sort of moving forward being the somewhat rational one in the family.
yeah, yeah. I think Bree's hitting a point where, especially because she and Kane seem to be past their issues.
Yes.
She and Belle seem to be past their issues. So I really think that the tension of Bree is
Mm-hmm.
kind of gone, and she can
Yes.
kind of move forward as whatever the identity is with the family.
Yep. She'll move forward, be clean. I don't really have any doubt that that's going to continue. As far as Kane's marriage, this is sort of a big question mark to me. So at the end, the way that Peyton acts to him is very, very strange. That just gave me like a feeling in my stomach when she says, "Oh yeah, we're fine." That I was like, "Are they though? Like,
No,
is she?"
I'm sure they're not. I think if anything, they would just stay together for the benefit of keeping the unit together, for the benefit of their
Right.
daughter, that sort of thing. But I don't think they're ever going to be lovey-dovey. And her certainly she's probably not going to keep giving him hand jobs, try to give him hand jobs in the restaurant.
I mean, I wasn't going to put it that way, but what I see it as is sort of more than, and I don't know if they're setting this up to be something more than just like, let's stay together for the kid that we have. I kind of saw it as like, okay, well, because she's forgiving him for cheating on her, like he kind of owes her now. So is she going to sort of take control of their marriage? Is she going to call the shots for Kane or his family because of what he put her through? Like, is this payback time for Peyton? Payback for
Well,
Peyton. Hashtag.
I don't know. I don't necessarily know if I'd say a payback thing, but a kind of establish herself into the brain trust of the Buckleys and kind of carve out her own little sect of that empire, so to speak. So, if it gets to the point where she does decide to leave Kane, she's leaving Kane with a chunk of the gold.
Right. Yeah. And I think the only other person that is a question mark is, Shawn is coming to that town from Texas, and he normally lives in Texas. So is he going to stick around like permanently? Like, he did say he had a partner in Texas that I think is like a live-in partner, like a serious relationship. So is he going to, bring that person to Havenport, or are we going to see that next season? Is he going to stick around? We don't really know.
I hope Shawn's back. I like Shawn. I definitely
like
hope
Shawn
he's
too.
got a recurring role.
Well, we hope you want to see us stick around as well. So if you enjoy listening to our show, we would appreciate it if you gave us a 5-star review and let us know what you think of each episode. Also, make sure you hit that follow or subscribe button so you know when new episodes are released. So here's how to reach us. You can email us at rednredrealreviews, that's the letter N and real spelled with 2 E's, at gmail.com, or you can follow the show on Instagram, also rednredrealreviews. So next up, we do miss some Ted Lasso, and okay, this isn't quite that, but it's also on Apple TV, and it's a sports show, except this time it's about golf, and it's called Stick, and it has Owen Wilson. So basically we expect to see Owen Wilson basically playing himself in yet another role like he likes to do, but hey, sometimes it's entertaining. So
wow.
Yeah, so tune in for that, and then tune in for our discussion after that. Until the next Real Review, Red and Red signing out.
In less than an hour, aircraft from here will join others from around the world.
Don't act so surprised, Your Highness.
Hey guys, you ready to let the dogs out?
What? Do what?
No. Try not. Do. Or do not.
Because I don't want no scrubs.
Let the dogs out, like, who let the dogs out? Who?
Who brought this guy along?
I can go slow ahead. Come on down and chum some of this shit.
One more thing. Do me a favor. Don't go chasing waterfalls.
Mankind, that word should have new meaning for all of us today.
You're gonna need a bigger boat. Snakes. Why did it have to be snakes?
I'll take care, all right? None but love for you. None but love for you.
Have any clue what's about to happen to him?
Oh, not a chance in hell. Good night.
Blow up!
Peace! Smile, you son of a...
You did it. You crazy son of a bitch, you did it.
Toodaloo, motherfucker.
Hey,
It's not funny anymore.
Chelsea references. Still, nothing. I swear to you.
But as the day when the world declared in one voice, we will not go quietly into the night. We will not vanish without a fight. We're going to live on. We're going to survive. Today, we celebrate our Independence Day.